Hello world, Shelly here, and it's time for your Friday Foundation Fix, where you can get your fix of foundation reviews in between foundation fests. And there will be a foundation fest coming soon. I'm in the process of filming it now. Think like a week after next, that kind of thing. I need like a week to film, a week to edit, but in the meantime, we've got today's foundation, and you guys know I could not wait. I'm going to check out the most expensive foundation I've ever bought and probably ever will buy in my life. That is the Mer Soft Fluid Foundation. Retails for $120 for 1 fluid ounce of product in a very nice glass bottle with a pump, but yikes, it's crazy town price. I'm on Sephora's website right now, and this is getting 4.3 out of 5 stars with 184 reviews. 20,000 people have added it to their loves list, and the difference in how few reviews, only 184 people could afford this crazy foundation. So, comes in 20 different shades. I have it in the second lightest shade, Ivory, and that is described as for very light skin with a neutral undertone. There's one shade lighter, Porcelain, which is for very light skin with a cool undertone. And I just went neutral undertone because I've kind of been into that lately. I'm hoping this will be pretty much my winter-ish shade. This is described as being medium coverage for all skin types, normal, dry, combo, and oily, with a natural, luminous finish. Iconic skincare and pure color in one. Layer and build this fresh feel foundation to create the luminous look you love. The silky weightless formula creates beautifully natural finish, helps maintain skin balance throughout the day. Long wearing, natural, flexible coverage makes pores and imperfections virtually disappear. Skin is visually plumped with hydration. Lines and wrinkles appear softened. Miracle Broth. The healing force that flows through all of Mer hydrates, energizes, and soothes. Sea-sourced soft velvet ferment softens for a flawless finish, while SPF and antioxidants protect. Its SPF 20, and color capsule technology helps color stay true even in humidity. It's got no parabens, no sulfates, no phthalates. Mer is not cruelty-free. They do not test on animals for the products they sell in the United States, but they do sell their products in mainland China, and mainland China requires that animal testing be done, so they do test on animals where required by law. In terms of ingredients, this does have fragrance listed toward the bottom of the fairly lengthy ingredient list. There's a lot of sea creature sounding stuff in here, and there is also denatured alcohol, which can be drying to the skin, but it is one of the very last ingredients on the list, so I am guessing there's not a ton of it in here. I'm also guessing that all of the hydrating products that are ingredients in here that are supposed to be hydrating are going to counteract that, hopefully. Now, the miracle broth that makes Mer so expensive and makes Mer so magical to so many people, that is a fascinating story to me. So I'm going to tell you a little bit. Skip ahead if you don't want to hear any of this, but it is fascinating to me. You guys want to meet Polly? This is Polly. She doesn't come up here very much. She's up on my beauty desk. Say hi, Polly. She's like, let me out of here. So first off, what is in the miracle broth? It's a blend of sea kelp, calcium, magnesium, potassium, lecithin, iron, vitamins C and E, and B12, plus oils of citrus, eucalyptus, wheat germ, alfalfa, sunflower. But the miracle is in the process of biofermentation that it goes through. So to make the miracle broth, these ingredients are biofermented with light and sound over a period of 3 to 4 months, and that is the thing that turns it into the miracle broth. Every bit of miracle broth starts with a starter drop of the batch before it, which goes all the way back to the very first final batch of creme de la mer that Dr. Huber made. Dr. Huber is the guy that made this stuff. He was an aerospace scientist. He had an experiment gone wrong. Something exploded in his face. He had chemical burns all over his face, and he was not satisfied with what medicine and current cosmetics were able to do in terms of providing him relief and healing for his chemical burns, and he spent 12 years coming up with this formula. He lived near the sea. He thought it was, the power of the sea was very magical and amazing, and 6,000 experiments later, he came up with the final formulation for the miracle broth, which helps dramatically heal the skin, give it a smoother appearance, and every La Mer product has the miracle broth in it. That's like the heart of the whole brand. So I think that's kind of intriguing. I can see why they have to have increased costs if they are spending 3 to 4 months per batch of miracle broth in order to create this, and it seems like it is a very intense process, so I get it. I feel like the price might be a little justified if this stuff works. So let's take a look at the Mer Soft Fluid Foundation swatched against some of the others in my collection. Alrighty, let's swatch. First up is today's foundation, the Mer Soft Fluid Foundation in shade Ivory. That's the second lightest shade. Next is the Dior Backstage in 1.5 neutral, about the same undertone, but the Dior is a little bit darker. Third up, I've got the Estee Lauder Double Wear Stay in Place in 1C1 Cool Bone. This is what I put into the Sephora Shade Finder in order to get the recommendation for the Ivory shade in the La Mer. I would say it was a pretty accurate recommendation. The La Mer might be a smidge lighter, but they have a definitely similar undertone and similar shade. Fourth, I've got the MAC Studio Sculpt in shade NW15. And last up, I've got the YSL All Hours in shade Porcelain. I'm starting out with a 44-year-old face. I've got some sun damage that I like to cover up, deeper smile lines, some forehead lines. I do have enlarged pores, especially on my cheeks, that like to give me trouble. And I've got some texture between my eyebrows that likes to show up in my foundation. I have normal to dry skin. I'm on that borderline right now. In the summertime, I can say I'm pretty normal, but as winter approaches, my skin gets dehydrated really easily and it dries out really quickly, and by the time we're in full-on winter, I will be in full-on dry skin mode. So I'm right in the sort of borderline between them right now. I think my skin feels really good this morning. I don't have any itchiness or tightness or no drag lines from any of the dehydration going on. You can really tell around my crow's feet when I start to get my skin gets dehydrated, because then they get really, really obvious when I'm resting. And of course, when I smile, you see them. But when you see them at rest, then you know my skin's pretty bad. And I can't really see them right now. So I think my skin is starting out in a pretty good place. I have primed one half of my face, this half, with my Strivectin Line Blur Effector Primer. This is the half of my face that does have more texture. It's the driving side of my face that I did not protect with sunscreen for 10 years worth of commuting an hour each way to work. And so I will give that side the advantage of primer. We'll see if the foundation performs better one way or the other. This side of my face has not been primed, though I have done all of my morning skincare, moisturize, cleanse, moisturize, sunscreen, the whole 9 yards. So skincare is on. Let's see what this can do. I'll go in on one half of my face with a sponge. This is from AOA Studios on Shop Miss A, $1.55. These things are really nice plush sponges. I like them. Other side, e.l.f. Ultimate Blending Brush. This is blending out very easily. There is a scent to this foundation. It's not very overwhelming, but it is definitely fragranced. I'd say we're getting pretty light coverage with a sponge. I am getting some decrease in redness. The finish is definitely a natural, luminous kind of a finish. Looks very nice on the skin so far, but definitely light coverage with the sponge. I can still see all of my sunspots poking through. Let's see how the brush side does. Definitely better coverage, I think, with the brush. The fluid name of this really seems accurate. It's not a very runny consistency of foundation, but it smooths over the skin really nicely, and I just feel like it's a very fluid, smoothing kind of a coverage. I am having a little trouble getting my nose to cooperate, but my nose has not been cooperating lately anyway. There's a little bit of brush strokes visible in a couple of spots, so I feel like I want to try and build this up a little bit. They say you can build it up to medium. I want to even out this side of my face, and I think I'll do it with the brush, but then I may go back in with the sponge and just kind of perfect the finish. I'm going to go one more pump. realizing if I use a lighter hand with my brush and don't go in so heavy, then it doesn't move the product around as much, so I need to use a lighter hand. I was kind of manhandling my face. Yes, that seems to have fixed the brush stroke issue. I'm just gonna tap off some excess. This is a very pretty luminous finish. I feel like I'm getting a very good amount of blurring of texture, especially on the smoother side of my face. Looks amazing. I'm not getting as much pore blurring as I would have hoped to get. I'm getting a slight blur on both sides with and without primer, but my pores are still slightly visible along my cheeks. But very pretty finish. It is sitting on the skin very nicely. It almost looks like skin, you know, it's a natural look to the product on my face. I can still see maybe the tiniest bit of some spots poking through, so I would say medium coverage is a pretty good, accurate description if you build this up. I'm liking the finish so far. I think this looks really pretty. Let's see what time it is. 10:12 a.m. We will call the check-in time 10:10, and I will be right back with the rest of my face. And we're back. I did set the foundation very, very lightly with the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Powder because it remained just a little bit tacky and I didn't want to have any trouble blending powder on top of it. I'm a little bit regretting setting my forehead because it took away a bit of the nice dewy finish that it had. I'm hoping that'll come back as everything sort of melts together. On a normal day, I would come in with my Catrice Dewy Setting Spray and just all over the place. On review days, I try not to use setting spray unless I'm trying to salvage something that's a disaster because I just want to see how the foundation does on its own. So I did not go back in with any setting spray. That's how I would normally solve the dry forehead looking issue. But I do want to say, I was using my Charlotte Tilbury Magic Away Concealer, the best concealer of life in my life right now. My first ever true love favorite concealer, and this melted together like nothing I've ever seen before. I don't even want to say the concealer blended fine. It melted together with the foundation in just the most easy, beautiful way I've ever seen. I suspect that cream products, cream blush, cream bronzer, etc., might look really pretty with this foundation, the way this just fused with it. Seamless, no harsh lines. I was like, wow, just looking in the mirror. So it was pretty cool. Now, everything else blended fine. On the rest of my face, I've got the Marc Jacobs Omega Tantastic bronzer. My blush is the Charlotte Tilbury, the nipple blush. It looks like a nipple. Like, have you guys seen this before? It looks like a nipple. It's the nipple blush. I don't know, but what can I say? It's the Cheek to Chic, and this is in Pillow Talk. My highlight is, you guessed it, Natasha Denona Super Glow, because come on. And on my eyes, I am wearing the Pat McGrath Opulence Bronze Temptation Palette, and I have to share a moment of heartbreak with you. I couldn't get the little plastic thing. Oh, it's on there again! I couldn't get the little plastic thing off of the shadows. Oh, this time it fell right out. I dug my nail into one of them, you guys, and I swear I almost cried. I'm almost gonna cry now. Oh my god. Sucks. User error. I'm not even gonna put this back in, but I want to know the names of the colors. Pat, Miss McGrath, my lady, my queen, can you please put the names on the palette? Print them on the palette. No more of this. There, I like stuck it in the mirror. I've been using the Cargo Swimmables pencils, and I really like them. This one's in the shade Pebble Beach. I used it for my tight line and my upper lash line. Lower lash line, I did my Urban Decay 24/7 in Walk of Shame. Mascara is Butter London Double Decker, and my lip is the Pat McGrath Lip Fetish Balm. I think this is Love Supreme. I already put it in my purse. So that is where we are starting out. I will come back in a few hours with a daylight check-in. Then I'll be back at the end of the night to give you guys my final thoughts. Hey guys, daylight check-in here, and I would say we are doing okay. It's about 5.5 hours in on the foundation, and I still think it looks pretty nice. It does look a little bit more like makeup than I anticipated for being very expensive La Mer. I probably wouldn't build it up to 2 coats next time like this, but color match I think is fine if you ignore the redness of my chest. In the pure winter, it's going to be a little too dark for me, but I think for now it's okay. I am on the non-primer side getting some sort of separation along movement lines, but other than that, everything looks okay. The primer side is not having that separation issue, so that's where we're at 5.5 hours. I'll be back tonight with my final thoughts. 6:48 p.m. It has been 8.5 hours. Let's take a look at how the Mer Soft Fluid Foundation held up over time. I will say this is a very comfortable foundation, very lightweight, not at all sticky, does not seem drying in how it feels, although I do not feel like my skin is as moisture plumped as it was this morning. However, I'm not having any kind of itching or tightness to my face, so my skin doesn't feel dry, but I feel like it's borderline, going to get there shortly. Let's take a look up close. I think this foundation at a distance still looks really nice, mainly because there's no obvious wear off. My chin might be the only place I might say it maybe wore off a little, not much at all. But especially on the non-primed side of my face, everywhere along motion lines, the foundation is now separating on those movement lines. It's also happening on the primed side, but not as bad. Everything on my nose looks pretty good in terms of the foundation holding up, but as it's starting to break down, it's looking like makeup on top of the skin. It's not exactly cakey at this point, but it is. I can see on my nose, for example, that I've got makeup on my nose. As we go up in between my eyebrows, I can definitely see the sort of cracks, where it's breaking up along any motion lines on my face. Forehead still looks fine. Blush, bronzer, highlight are still fully intact. So I feel like over time, it holds up nicely, but as it's breaking down, it's just starting to separate on motion lines and look a little bit heavier in terms of more of a makeup look than a skin-like look in the way it's breaking down. You would expect for $120 you would get this flawless, amazing foundation. But here's my take on the price versus the is it worth it question, because that's what everybody wants to know. Is it worth $120? And it's going to really depend first on what your priorities are. I would say that if the miracle broth, if the skincare in this foundation is as nurturing to the skin and as healing to the skin and as amazing as it sounds, then I'm okay with a fairly nice but not perfect foundation if it's going to do amazing things for my skin, paying $120. Can we expect, what is this? Is this the foundation that looks perfect, or is this the foundation that's the best for your skin? Is there such a thing as both? I don't know. I think in general, this is a really nice foundation. It's pretty, it's luminous without looking sweaty, it's not too shiny. I don't feel like it's settled into my smile lines or my forehead lines. By the end of the night, I do have a little bit of settling into my deepest chin lines. So maybe deep wrinkles could be a problem with it, but general lines, I don't think it's a problem. I don't think it's a drying formula. It is the time of year when my skin's pretty dry to begin with. I'm very easily dehydrated. I'm not sure it's as moisturizing as I thought it was going to be, but I would not call it drying. So I would say it's okay for dry skin. It's okay for mature skin. It's not perfect. I would rather have a 12-hour, 13-hour, 14-hour wear time out of it. However, at a conversational distance, I think it still looks fine for this amount of time. Color-wise, I wish I got the cool undertone. Neutral to me, this seems like a neutral leaning slightly warm. And, especially when you can see all the pink in my skin in the winter when I'm like transparent. I feel like, doggone it, I wish I got the one shade lighter that is the cool undertone. But other than that, I think it's a really nice foundation. I can't speak to whether the Miracle Broth is a miracle. I'm going to have to wear this over time and see if consistent wear helps it to give me some idea of whether or not the skincare is working. So I'm going to hold reservations on whether I would say it's worth it. I think it's definitely worth a try because it's a very pretty foundation. I do think it is a very pretty foundation. In fact, let's talk grades. If I was to give a grade to the Mer Soft Fluid Foundation just on how it wears, how it looks, I'm going to go A- because it's so pretty. I'm in my head, I'm between a B+ and an A-. I'm going to give it the A- because I like the finish so much. I'm also giving it that bump under the assumption that, yes, the skincare in it is excellent. It does have amazing ingredients. I'm going to hold off saying that they're going to do very much until I've worn it more times than this. But I'm going to go A- on the La Mer with the caveat that I don't recommend that everybody runs out and spends $120 on foundation. I don't think anyone needs this ever. I don't care how much money you have. Nobody needs to spend $120 on foundation. That said, if you've got the money and you choose to spend it on La Mer, I'd say give it a shot. It'd be even better if you could get a sample first at a Sephora and try and take it home before you buy it. But, Sephora allows returns. So I don't think I'm going to return this, though. I think I'm going to hang on to this one. I might even consider investing in one more shade, but I'm going to keep wearing this and see if I can get some idea of how the skincare works and how impactful it is in order to further induce my opinion one way or the other as to whether it's worth the $120. I think it's a very pretty foundation. I wish it wore a little bit longer in the close-up scenario, but it's really, really pretty and very comfortable. So there you have it. That's my take on the La Mer Soft Fluid. Holy cow, that's a lot of money for foundation. But I'm going to say thumbs up. I like it. I'm keeping it. I was ready to return it in a heartbeat at this price if it was not something I enjoyed. So I'm keeping it. I'm going to keep it. I like it. There you have it. Your Friday foundation fix. If you like foundation reviews and you want to see more of them, give me a thumbs up down below. I've always got room for suggestions. Leave me some comments as to what foundations you would like to see me try out. If you're not sure what I've already tried, go on my website, geekoutofwater.com, click the Foundation Fest link. I've got a ranked, sortable, searchable spreadsheet of all of the foundations I've reviewed. I'm behind on putting a couple of them in there, but they will be in there, I promise. There are over 100 reviews that you can check out. I've got all the data. Be sure to swipe that thing or scroll it to the side so you can see all the information about each one. And there you have it. As always, thanks a lot for taking some time out of your day to geek out over makeup with me. Come back every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time for new videos. Please subscribe if you haven't already. It helps my channel grow. And thanks a lot. I hope you guys all have an awesome day or night wherever you are in the world. Take care of each other. Bye-bye.